Hi, everybody. My name's Rachel Winder, and I did this semester's project on primitive reflexes and their integration. I was really impressed by the textbook's definition of reflexes. It states that they are built-in reactions to stimuli. They govern the newborn's movements, which are automatic and beyond the newborn's control. Reflexes are genetically carried survival mechanisms. They allow infants to respond adaptively to their environment before they have had the opportunity to learn. So I was intrigued by this, and I've also had some family instances where this has come up, and so that I'll explain later. And so I wanted to do my project on this. And to start off, I'd like to introduce you to my family. This was a picture taken of us in Cancun, Mexico last week. And I am in the middle, and as you'll see, my dad carrying my niece Olive next to my mom, and then I have all my other siblings, and then my youngest brother Aiden is in the goggles. I'd like to focus on Olive and Aiden for this project. Olive is on the left. She's a cute little 5-month-old baby girl. And then Aiden is my 11-year-old brother who has been diagnosed on the autistic spectrum, but has also had completed the brain balance therapy program. And that's kind of what spiked my interest on reflexes, but also how they can be poorly integrated and cause issues with children in later development. So to start, I did some research on the different types of reflexes. There was a couple mentioned in our textbook, but there are actually a few more that I wanted to explore, and I found research done on these on different websites and also very helpful YouTube channels that are teaching mothers about these reflexes and how they can help them integrate them properly. And for my project, I decided to test each of these reflexes on Olive, Aiden, and then one of my other siblings. So I'll get into the specifics of each one and also what I learned while I was completing the project. I did the moral reflex first. I'm going to move my head over here so that you can see the pictures. The moral reflex was mentioned in the textbook, and it's the one where babies are able to activate their breathing. So how I tested it on my newborn niece, Olive, you'll see in the first picture, I kind of held her up and then kind of like propped her back almost in a sudden movement with having her feeling the dropping motion, but without actually having her fall. And what happened is each time she would spring up her arms, you can kind of see in this picture, she has one arm up. Usually they were pretty parallel. Both of her arms would go up and her legs. And this is all a reflex, and it helps babies with protection and survival skills right out of the womb. But if they're poorly integrated, there's this whole list of symptoms that you can read through if you'd like. I wanted to see if my brother, who has gone through the brain balance program, has correctly integrated this reflex into his body. So what I tested was having him lay on a yoga ball and kind of roll backwards on it and see if he had any balance issues or if his hands were coming up while he did that. And it turns out he has completed the training to fix that and integrate it properly because he did not have any issues with it. And I also had my sister stand up, cross her legs, bend over, touch her toes to see if she had any balance issues there, which is also related to this reflex. And she had no issues as well. The next one that I tested was the rooting or sucking reflex. This one's pretty common and pretty easy to understand, but you'll see in this picture with me and my niece Olive, right after this picture was taken, because my cheek was close to her face, she turned and started sucking on it. So I thought that was a pretty good example, and it happens constantly throughout her development. And for my brother, the brain balance program had my mom draw whiskers onto his cheeks, and he was hypersensitive around his mouth area, and that kind of desensitized him and made it easier for him to actually speak and articulate problems, which is one of the symptoms as well. I'm going to move my head back over here. The spinal gallant reflex was one that I also looked into, and this has to do with having a very sensitive lower back. So you'll see Olive is laying on this carpet down here, and all I did was place my finger down her back and see if she wiggled at all, which she did. This actually helps babies come out of the birthing canal, when they have that hypersensitivity down there, they can wiggle out, but it should start to integrate very soon after birth. And this is actually one that my brother struggled with a lot before he completed the brain balance program, because it was related to bedwetting. And so he actually had to wear a pull-up for the majority of his childhood, because he couldn't quite figure out how to stop bedwetting. But this program helped him because he was able to do exercises that helped sensitize his lower back, like this one that we ran where he scooted across the floor on his butt. The tonic labyrinthine reflex, or tone and balance reflex, helps babies with gravity, and it's also related to the moral reflex. So this one is just having Olive lay on her tummy, and you can see she's already like has her head up, her arms kind of out, and her legs up. That is a reflex just in and of itself. And to test this on my siblings, I had them do this Superman pose, as my older brother is doing right here, and that shows that it's correctly integrated, but not necessarily completely gone, because this is still an important ability to have in later development as well. Another common reflex is the palmar grasp reflex, and this is the one we typically do with lots of babies, where you hold out a finger and they grab it and you think, oh, it's so cute, they are noticing me, but it's actually just a reflex when they feel that touch in their palm. And it's related to fine motor skills. So how my brother was able to learn how to integrate it was to do this movement with his fingers, have his thumb touch each one of his fingers. It's actually kind of tricky already, but it's more tricky for those that don't have it integrated. And to see if he successfully completed his therapy, I had him do this for me, and he was great at it. For the last one that I did with my siblings was the symmetrical tonic reflex and the asymmetrical tonic reflex. They're very related, and their purpose is to help with crawling, and crawling eventually leads to walking, so we shouldn't need this reflex as much anymore. It's usually integrated at 6 months. And so this is right around the time that Olive is starting to learn it, but we weren't able to run it with her because she it was still a little too young. I might try it in the future though, just to see. The one thing that I did to test this was doing cat-cow exercises with my brother and my sister. And my sister actually didn't know how to do it, so she had my mom help her. But once she figured it out, she was able to do it great. And they both did it equally well, so I could tell that my brother had this reflex kind of fixed. All right, to conclude, I just want to mention how we can prevent poor integration in children. It's obviously something we don't want children to have to deal with, because there are a lot of symptoms and side effects that can lead to autistic behaviors or ADHD behaviors that are just not super helpful for children. There are methods to integrate them later, like my brother, who completed these exercises each day, like snow angels on the ground to help his back sensitivity, and the whiskers on his face to help his mouth sensitivity. But it's more ideal to have them integrated properly when they're supposed to. And to have this possible, it's always great to make sure babies are getting lots of tummy time and opportunities for free movement, and not to delay the creeping crawling steps, because those are really important to the later walking steps, even though they seem like useless sometimes. And to make sure that the delivery of the baby goes as smooth as possible will help all of these things. And yeah, that's all I have for you guys. So I hope you enjoyed, and thank you for listening. Bye.